I just turned 20, and any fans of my channel know my bread and butter is traveling. Now, trying to afford my adventures as a teenager is not very easy. Anyway, I've actually come up with a system that I use every time I travel abroad, and it really, really keeps the cost down. And make sure you stick around for the final tip, because that could potentially save you hundreds. I know it's going to save me possibly £400-500 this year alone. All right then, let's start by deciding where you're actually going to go. It is super, super easy to be scrolling on the old TikTok and find yourself caught in the trap of seeing these, like touristy, trendy, popular destinations and just wanting to go immediately. I am guilty of this myself, but you have to remember that, at least for me, the goal is simply to travel. I'm not actually too fussed about when I see things. I just want to see as much of the world as possible, right? And going to these super expensive locations, paying fistfuls of cash to see something in a few years, less busy, you have it more to yourself, and it's still going to be there. Half the reason these things are so popular is because they're hundreds of years old, some kind of historical site. The thing that's impressive about that is it's been around for so long. So obviously it's still going to be there. Trying to visit these places when they're busiest, like the absolute peak, is just not economical. The flights will be expensive, the hotels, the travel, everything. You're going to want to do a few things. First of all, realize where you're going doesn't really matter that much. Honestly, it just doesn't. Deciding where you want to go is an expensive prospect. Instead, I determine my destination based on the season and the price. It is so well documented that the same flight now, which is late July, August, will be incredibly cheaper in, for example, October or even November. This doesn't go for everywhere. Places like Prague or Lapland, which sort of have like a Christmassy vibe, or just a Christmas market. I don't know why I did that. They are just more expensive during the winter. But for the most part, summer makes the prices go up, and that's just, what can you do? This obviously limits your options, but beggars can't be choosers, especially if you're watching this video. No offense. Now, once you have a time where you're free, it's a cheap season, say, for example, the week of October 2nd, just find the cheapest flight during that time and just go wherever it takes you. But here you ask, Adam, how do I do that? Well, that is where my favorite tool comes in. That is a site known as Skyscanner. This thing is absolutely great. You can just put your dates in, or even just a month. Things called flexible dates. It's great. Anyway, set your destination as anywhere, and it will give you all the cheapest options within that time frame. Google Flights does this as well, but it kind of sucks. I never use it. I always just go with Skyscanner. I used to check both, but it's pointless. This is 100% the best way to find cheap flights. That is not my opinion. That is just a fact. This thing is insane. It's so good. If you think you know something better, comment down below, because I haven't found it, and I'd love to try it, honestly. I used this like 4 times a year, probably, and I consistently get return flights for about £30, up to 50. That is absurdly cheap. Half the time, I'm spending more on a train to get from my town to the airport than I am on getting the plane from, the airport to a whole different country. But that's the whole, last mile problem, which is a load of bullshit. Anyway, the trouble I have isn't actually the flights. Usually they are pretty cheap. Plus, you only have to pay it once per trip, whereas other costs, they increase with every day that you're there, like food, accommodation, so. And that does bring me to my next point, accommodation. I hate booking accommodation. It pisses me off. That said, there is a pretty simple rule for accommodation. If you're by yourself, hostels will always be the cheapest option. That never changes. If you're in a group of 3 or more, however, that changes things. Airbnbs, I found, don't really increase with the amount of people in them. So get a 1-bedroom room, split it 3 ways, and, you know, where you sleep, that's up to you. I'm not going to judge your lifestyle choices, but, you know, it's just, you don't really care. You just want to travel. Just, you can sleep on the floor, sleep in the tub, sleep, you know, spoon, for all I care. But point is, that makes it cheaper. Trip.com, Airbnb, those are probably the main 2, but, you know, you get the idea. When I went to Krakow, there were 3 of us. If you watch my video somewhere up there, you'll know there's 3 of us. We had a great time, and it was super cheap because we just got this Airbnb, Trip.com, I think it's Trip.com sort of place, and split it 3 ways. Super cheap. But most of my trips, hostels, because you just can't beat them. I've seen them go as low as £7 a night, which is absurd. And that's just in European destinations, because that's where I really travel. But you know, you go further places with weaker currencies, like I looked at, what was it, Morocco, I think, goes as low as like £3 a night. It's absurd. Where you want to buy your hostels? No. Where you're going to want to rent your hostels is Hostel World. This is an app. You can get it on your phone or on your computer. It's so good. It is just so good. It has, usually you just put in your, like, it doesn't have every city, but it has most cities. You put it in and put your dates, obviously, and it will give you a whole host of hostels in the city. And it's usually the cheapest place you can find, but it is the most reliable. Additionally, you're a teenager, you're probably still in school. Maybe you're not. Huh. Anyway, you're a teenager, you're probably still in school. They have a 7% student discount, which does not sound like much, I know. But if your aim is frequency, you're traveling a lot, different countries, it adds up, you know, several nights, several trips, several years. Eventually, you're probably gonna save enough that you can pay for a whole trip by itself. I know I'm sort of in that range now. I've pretty much every trip I've been on besides Krakow, I've stayed in hostels, so I actually have, you know, saved myself a good chunk there. I'm definitely gonna miss that when I graduate. Yeah, anyway, it adds up over time. You probably need the discount. God knows that I do. Anyway. This next tip is actually slightly unconventional, and that is to change your behavior when you're traveling. A lot of people find it, you know, to be a necessity to sample the local culture. And yes, you should. But try and, you know, switch your mind up a little bit. You don't have to try everything. Just go around, see the sights, do what doesn't cost you anything, because, you know, it's culture, realistically, you shouldn't. The big, you know, what if there is food. So many people, when they're traveling, they want to try the local food, and I myself, I'm one of those people. I mean, if you see my last video in Italy, I don't know if I can do 2 of these, but if I can, it's up there. In my last video, I went to Italy, and the whole video was about trying the food. God, that was an exception because it's Italy, and I heard the food was great, so I wanted to make a video about it. But usually, when I'm traveling, I'm not spending on food. What you're gonna want to do is find a supermarket, you know, buy some food. You want carbs, you want protein, you want stuff that's going to keep you full all day and that's going to keep you energized all day, because you're probably going to be walking miles. I know I did in Rome. But anyway, most hostels, most Airbnbs have some kind of basic cooking facilities. When I was in Krakow, all they had was a microwave, bare minimum. Although I have seen places with only a kettle, which, you know, you're gonna have to figure out, but only a microwave. And I made what I call the burger bowl, which is you buy a loaf of sort of bakery bread that's like 30 cents. And then if you're from the UK, you're familiar with Rustler's burgers. It's like that, but it's just, you get a stack of 4 burgers and nothing else. And then you also buy please buy, for the love of God, like a barbecue sauce thing or something. Do not have this unflavored, you'll kill yourself. Anyway, rip up the burger, rip up the bread. Well, cook the burger first, but rip up the burger, rip up the bread, put it in a bowl, barbecue sauce, you know, slam all together, and then you're done, and then you're done. Easy. This was not the tastiest thing, but it kept me full and it kept me going. And thinking back on it now, you know, it's a funny story from the trip. Like, I miss that. That was great. You don't have to eat the food where you go is the main thing. Maybe one night, treat yourself, try something local. Let's try an old dish that's been there for hundreds of years. Unless you're in America, in which case it's going to be like, I don't know, 5 years old, because little baby country, little baby country. That's not funny. That's not funny. Anyway, it's a little bit of a shame to not try the food, but trust me, this just buying food, going out to buy food from restaurants and stuff, it balloons your
costs.
I spent more on my Rome trip than I did on my last 3 trips combined. And I was only there for the weekend. It's obscene. It's obscene. Besides, using a supermarket in a local country is part of the culture, you know. It's not exactly, you know, romantic or fantastical, but it does the job, and it's, you know, yeah. Now, as promised, I have the final tip. I haven't actually been able to use this one much because, well, I'll explain. I predominantly take trips in Europe because, as I mentioned before, hostels, Skyscanner, the cheap flights are within Europe. So that's where I travel. If you want to go somewhere else, somewhere further, take, you know, longer, more expensive flights, this tip is paramount. It's essential. What you're going to want to do is activate a VPN, whatever kind you want, and set your location to countries with, you know, weaker currencies, less purchasing power. Anyway, do this and your prices will be set far lower. I usually set mine to India just because from where I heard this tip, they said do India, so I have been. I will be going to New Zealand and Vietnam this year. Look out for those videos. Hopefully there'll be a bunch, given how much I'm fucking spending. But yeah, big trips, really big trips. And a big part of that is it flips on its head. When you go further, often the accommodation and the costs are cheaper, but the flights are far, far more. I know the Vietnam is 400 each way. No, that's not true. 450 round trip, I think. And then New Zealand, Jesus Christ, I don't even want to imagine. But it's expensive is the point. And setting a VPN, it can save you hundreds. I don't know why this is a thing. Low-key little racist, but I'm not racist, you're not racist. Hopefully. Stop watching if you are. Well, like the video. No, I'm being serious. You gotta go. You gotta pack it up, buddy. Anyway, the companies are racist, but all companies are racist for the most part, so it's whatever. Do the tip. It'll save you tons of money. And try it out. I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but I'll report back after my New Zealand trip. That's first. Anyway, that is actually the final tip. Yeah. So that's how I traveled cheap when I was a teenager, and I'm going to continue to do it. If you're interested in actually seeing me travel and do things, like, subscribe, watch this video, watch the Rome video. It does not disappoint. Probably, but thanks for watching. See you next time. Later.